Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at AmericanExpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
My God, this film is funny. This film is extremely funny.
There's so much going on, though, actually. Like, the first time I watched it, I just laughed through the whole thing. The pace of Hot Fuzz, I think that's a better pace than Shaun of the Dead in terms of the number of gags and the way the movie moves along.
One of the main reasons why we thought this would be a good idea, actually, was because I've never seen it before, and Michael brings it up in every conversation. So we thought that would be a good...
Yeah, it's like, and finally, now you can have that same reference point. Yeah.
That's right.
Hey everyone, joining today we have Michael.
Hello.
We have Ian.
Hi.
And we have Kobe.
Howdy.
Oh, disappointed no one said yar. And we're here today to talk about Hot Fuzz.
Thank you as always to Mighty People for their mighty, mighty tunes that you can hear right now. And thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for editing this podcast and all of our podcasts forever and ever and ever. Please do remember to head over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Pocket Cast and give us a 5-star rating and a massively glowing review. And if you want to join the conversation with us, we are on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod or on Instagram at Flixwatcher. Also TikTok and Threads and Blue Sky. Just look for Flixwatcher, we'll be there.
Hello, film fans. Our guests today are Michael and Ian. Over to you, please, Ian. Say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Hello, listeners. Michael and I have been doing a Blackadder fan podcast called Lord of Adder's Black. We started in June. And it comes out every 2 weeks. And it's the fan podcast that we would like to hear as fans ourselves. So, So rather than focusing on one episode of Blackadder for each episode, we would have different segments. We would have, for example, a scene stealer segment where we would look at someone like Ron Lacey, who played the baby eating Bishop of Bath and Wells. And then we would often have an interview with special guests who were in the show or who have written books about Blackadder. And we also have a trivia treasure trove, which gives trivia, which if you're a nerd like us, you'll enjoy. Like, for example, the fact that Mrs. Patmore from Downton Abbey is actually Mrs. Pants in the episode of Blackadder called Money. Mm-hmm. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, Lord of Adder's Black.
Yeah, very niche.
This is like the Blackadder just soaked up a lot of British comedy stars at the time. And this is kind of, I guess it's going to kind of fold into Hot Fuzz as well, because there's a lot of, when I'm rewatching this now, there's such a deep bench of characters and actors in here who all would have been influenced by Blackadder. And rightly so, because it's fucking astonishing. Michael, who are you?
I am also part of...
Not sure. Such a strange question. Who am I?
I don't know. I'm having an existential crisis here. So I'm the other half of Lord of Adder's Black podcast with Ian. Yeah.
Why did you settle on Blackadder specifically to talk about when there's it's quite an old podcast, and also why did you not go episode by episode as perhaps people would have expected you to do?
Yeah, well, I think we set it on Blackadder because there's a bit of a bit of a hole in that. There's nothing really out there about Blackadder in the last 20 years, really. It doesn't, especially in Australia, it doesn't really get replayed on TV at all. We just thought there was a nice little niche for us to fit into for our first foray into podcasting. And of course, we both love it. And what was the second part of your question, Kobe?
Why are you not going on episode by episode recap side of things?
Yeah, well, first of all, we didn't know how many people would like the first series of Blackadder.
Right.
So we thought if we started with Blackadder, the first Blackadder, we may not get many listeners. And second of all, we just felt like that could run out of a bit of steam. You know, if you go episode 1, series 1, let's chat about the episode. I think can get a bit stale pretty quickly, I think.
Yes, there have been other podcasts about sitcoms that take exactly this approach, and it's two guys with pretty much indistinguishable voices, and they just extract all the jokes from each thing. And it's and lots of people have said this to me. They've said, that approach is not good. We love what you do. It's fast moving, and it's fun. So that was my instinct when I suggested to Michael all those months ago, and I think it was a good idea.
Well, fair play to you. We're here to talk about Hot Fuzz, which is your choice, Michael. Can you tell us first of all why you chose it, and then you'll have 60 seconds or less to give us a synopsis.
Well, it's the kind of comedy that's right up my alley. So I was first put onto this by one of my best mates probably 10 or so years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Actually put me onto Shaun of the Dead first. So then I made my way through that sort of trilogy, for want of a better word, I'd say. But I think this is my favourite out of all Edgar Wright's films.
Okay.
So that's why I chose it.
Okay, your timer starts now.
Right, so Hot Fuzz, it's a murder mystery comedy about an overachieving London police officer, Nicholas Angel, who, when he's at the top of his profession in London, he gets relocated to a small town in the UK, basically because he's showing up all his colleagues. He's doing too good of a job, making everybody else look bad. When he gets located to the small town, they don't like Angel's minute attention to rules and regulations in the police force. And going on behind this is a whole bunch of accidents start to occur, which Angel actually believes are probably murders. So he goes about solving these with his partner Danny, which involves a whole bunch of high-speed car chases, shootouts, and the occasional white swan.
Very nice.
Yeah, we've got more than time there. Fantastic. Helen, we've had Edgar Wright films on here a few times. What else has been what else has been here? And where does Hot Fuzz normally sit for you before we go to the scores?
So we've had Shaun of the Dead. We've had Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That's what it's called, isn't it? I've forgotten that. Baby Driver, and his more recent Last Night in Soho.
Yeah. So is he up there? Is it Tarantino? Tarantino's probably the next.
Probably, next director.
Okay.
But yeah, we're broadly big fans of space. I was very happy to rewatch this when you picked it. Not that I haven't seen it a zillion times, which is probably going to lean quite heavy into the repeat.
Yeah.
But my God, this film is funny.
Yeah.
This film is extremely funny. A lot of lines in it I've used in response to serious questions throughout the years. The who's who of British comedic talent in here,
and non-comedic talent as well. Just like generally,
yes,
it's like
I mean we've got Oscar winners and all sorts in this, and there's just so many jokes in this that it's just really funny.
Yeah. Well, in the first, I was timing this the other day. In the first 15 minutes, you get Simon Pegg, Martin Freeman, Bill Nighy, Steve Coogan, Bill Bailey, and Timothy Dalton. And that's just in the first 15 minutes.
You've probably missed out a fair few people in that.
Probably have. Yeah, it's crazy.
You also have, there's two
really big stars in the first
5 minutes, who not a lot of people know about. Do you want to tell them who they are, Helen?
So Nicholas gets stabbed in the hand. Any ideas who the Santa is?
I do know this one. That's Peter Jackson.
And Nicholas's ex-girlfriend is...
No, I don't know that one.
Oscar-winning, very famous actress, Cate Blanchett.
Oh,
you can
really?
tell it by her eyes when you rewatch it.
Okay.
And the voice.
Yeah, when you see her eyes, like, that's Cate Blanchett.
Oh, wow.
Right. Okay.
I missed that one.
I missed that one as well.
Well, that's why it's a great cameo. And it's a great scene. I mean, this... well, let's go to yourselves, guys. Let's go to you first, Ian. Had you seen this before? How much do you know of Edgar Wright's oeuvre and his stuff?
No, I hadn't seen this before. I had seen Shaun of the Dead before.
Did you know it as an Edgar Wright film, or did you just know it as a film that was people told you to watch?
Yeah, more of a film that people told me to watch. I had seen Shaun of the Dead before. I didn't enjoy it, but I don't think I was in the mood for a zombie film. So I will. I think I will check that out again as well. I haven't seen any of the other films you mentioned either.
So what did you think? I'm dying to know.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, sure.
So Michael, have you seen this before? This watch?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just picked it because I love it. So I thought, I could watch this again many times. and there's so much going on though. Actually, like the first time I watched it, I just laughed through the whole thing. But then the more you watch it, like I think Ian was saying this the other day too. Like there's this part where Timothy Dalton's character drives up to where the first murders occur, and they make the first murders look like it's a car accident.
Yeah.
By the two actors.
Playing Romeo and Juliet.
Playing on the radio of Timothy Dalton's car is Romeo and Juliet by Dire Straits. It's just, I completely missed that the first couple of times I watched it.
And then the second time, he drives up, he's playing the song Fire just after the house has exploded.
Yes.
So
many callbacks.
Yeah.
It's
So many
just
callbacks,
incredible.
Yeah.
Like when you watch it again, they're all laid out, but it's just so perfectly paced and timed. And like the one that always gets me is the swan at the back of the car. Because like they just find him and they put him in the back of the car.
One of the main reasons why we thought this would be a good idea actually was because I've never seen it before, and Michael brings it up in every conversation. So we thought that would be a good.
Yeah, it's like finally now you can have that same reference point. Yeah,
That's right.
One of the callbacks I picked up this time, because I've seen it at least 1 million times, was when Nicholas Angel first goes into the pub where he's staying, and they have a conversation about the crosswords, and she goes fascist, and then hag right at the start. But then at the end there's that callback. And they actually call themselves he calls her a fascist, he calls her a hag, and I'm sure that's the first time I picked that up as that callback. But this film, I've talked about this on an Empire podcast actually. It was like I think it was like the 15th anniversary of Hot Fuzz, and I joined the gang there, and we just like laughed all the way through the films. But this, I think this is my favorite Edgar Wright film, and there are a few flaws with it. But it's just as you said, the way it's so Chekhovian. There's so many payoffs that come at the end. So I feel the first half does maybe drag a bit because there's like lots of little titters, a lot of things that pick up that kind of that set up. But then at the end, it's just like boom, 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 boom. That's just like it's like knocking over dominoes. He's setting up dominoes for the first half, and then just sets it going, and then you just can't stop laughing all the way through to the end. Not that the start is boring. It's just like it titters along, but then it just takes another level. And it's got one of my all-time favorite gags in that when I remember it, like in walking in the streets, just has me like laughing in stitches. And that's just that they're called the Neighborhood Watch Alliance, abbreviated to NWA.
Yes.
NWA.
And I asked Edgar Wright about this, and I said, guys, when you came up with that line, did you just like take the whole rest of the day off and like see? And he said, pretty much, yeah, we did, because it's such a beautiful, like, amazing gag. But yeah, I could wax lyrical about this film, and I have done. I'm sure we'll do time and time again. I think it's going to have quite a few good scores from me anyway.
Yeah. In fact, I'd say it's actually the pace of Hot Fuzz. I think that's a better pace than Shaun of the Dead. Actually, to be honest, in terms of the number of gags and the way the movie moves along. Although this is about Hot Fuzz, not Shaun of the Dead. But I must say one of my all-time favourite scenes of Edgar's is when they're in Shaun of the Dead and the jukebox is playing "Don't Stop Me Now" by Queen. Yeah, and they're doing the whole pure, hitting each other with the pool cues, and that's one of my all-time favourite scenes.
People absolutely love that scene, don't they? I mean, they play that a lot of times, but I wasn't so taken by it. I think there's a lot of funnier things in there. But I love the fact, if you love it, then it's great, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things about Edgar Wright's film in general, is that everyone's got kind of like a favourite joke or a favourite scene. And like, usually there's quite a lot of crossover, but there's also quite a lot that is different. And I just think that's how well pitched a lot of this is that there's so much stuff that people have all got a different like funny bit, or when you watch it again, different bits kind of stand out. Like, I don't know why I find it so funny, but it's quite near to the start where he's asking the youth like, when's your birthday? and they say
22nd of February.
23rd. Yeah. What year? Every year. And I've used that before in serious situations. There's lots of things that you know, do you want anything from the shops? Yeah. And I will shout out Cornetto anytime. And it's just become just so ingrained in kind of popular British culture. And
that 22nd of February gag on the 22nd of February on Twitter, it's there.
I was trying.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I was also trying to think of what you call I really like the way it's filmed. I'm not sure what you call the effect, but someone else might know this better. But like the way it's sort of the camera pans and like to go from each scene, it sort of pans really quickly.
It's like a whip pan. It's something that Edgar Wright did a lot. Certainly in Spaced. If you watch Spaced, the sitcom, I guess you can call it that. The comedy he did with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Then there's definitely laying the foundations there, and he's taking it to the nth degree.
Yeah, I really like that style.
He's known a lot for how he shoots things, because it's not conventional, I'd say. If you look at Baby Driver, that's probably, in fact, Baby Driver is the most Edgar Wright in terms of cinematic style, I think. But it's less on the comedy side of things. But it's definitely all his camera moves and things like that are really, really like dialed up in Baby Driver.
We've kind of mentioned Nick Frost, but also the cast is so stacked.
Yeah.
Obviously, Paddy Considine's in this, and Rafe Spall is the Andes. And I think the one that when people rewatch it, they're always surprised that Olivia Colman is in this.
Yes.
And she's just like, Doris is just amazing. I really love her. Previous guest of the show, Adam Buxton, is there as the
messenger,
the local journalist.
Yes.
Oh, right.
So yeah, just so many. So those are a few that maybe stood out this time watching it for me.
Of course, Ian and myself from Blackadder, Jim Broadbent, as the inspector.
Yes.
So we know him well from his guest appearances in Blackadder. So he does another great job in this movie too.
In fact, there were so many familiar faces that I found it distracting. So first time I was watching it, I was too busy saying, "Oh look, it's Stephen Merchant."
Yeah,
and kind of go, "Okay, I've completely missed what happened there."
Mr. Piss Taker.
That was very good. Yeah, I really laughed out like that one. Yeah.
And as you go further, I mean, I don't think I recognised a lot of these people the first time I watched it, but as you watch more things and come back to watching again, like David Bradley, who played that really incomprehensible farmer, who played, he was in Game of Thrones, for example.
Yes.
Lucy Punch in Motherland. David Threlfall, Mr. Gallagher in Shameless, in the UK Shameless. Alice Lowe, who's got a new film coming out. She had a really kind of inconsequential part in this, but Rory McCann, the Hound in Game of Thrones. So all these people who weren't of much note then are suddenly like...
Hold on. Was he in the film?
The guy that goes Yarp. He played the Hound in Game of Thrones.
That was him?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't think that at all.
Yeah, well,
I have to watch it again now.
which I don't think you'll find a problem. Rafe Spall is probably the first time I saw him, and now he's he's in bigger films. He was in the Alien Covenant, was he? Oh no, was he in Prometheus? Either way, he played a stupid role. But yeah, Olivia Colman, I think, is one that if you like British comedy, she's been a stalwart of British comedy for a while, so it made sense that she's in this. But if you've known her from, winning an Oscar onwards, it's like, oh, right, she's in this she's in this comedy playing, like, she's smashing out the park in this comedic role. So it's kind of really interesting. I think that's why Helen brought her up specifically. Anything else, guys, want to say before we head to the scores?
Just that it always makes me laugh when Summerfield comes up, because that's where Edgar Wright had like a Saturday job, and he was just like, just going to put it in one of my films.
Well, that was where he actually filmed where he grew up. So he used to work in that Summerfield,
which is completely niche. This brand of supermarket like got bought out years and years ago. So even then it wasn't like up there with the big ones. So it's an extremely niche reference. And if you've ever been in a Summerfield, then it's just really funny in a way that I can't really explain.
Can I just ask, did anybody else get any Wicker Man vibes from the film?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so that is a known factor then, yeah. Yeah. And also I found interesting the fact that Edward Woodward is actually, his role is reversed. He's on the other side of the thing. Okay.
Yeah, he's in the cult in this.
He's in the NWA. Yeah. I must say, I laughed an awful lot when I read the NWA sign.
Yeah, I mean, I just think about the callbacks again, like when they talk about Sergeant Popperwell, the big bushy beard, and then he falls down that hole and sees this guy with a big bushy beard, and it's like, oh. chef's kiss all the way through. Yeah, should we head to the scores, guys?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm Sam Clements, host of the 90 Minutes or Less Film Festival, another podcast in the Stripped Media family, a podcast that celebrates movies under 90 minutes long. Each episode, I'm joined by a special guest who selects a movie to join our prestigious lineup. Past guests have included fellow Stripped Media family members Martin and Sam from Song by Song, and Kobe from Flixwatcher, and Dave from The Wire Stripped. Search for us now on the app you're currently listening to this podcast, or join us at 90minfilmfest.com.
So welcome to the Flixwatcher scores. They are always out of 5. You can have decimal places, and we'll start with you, please, Michael, with your recommendability.
Well, it has to be 5 because I recommend this to everybody I ever meet.
Fair enough.
Yes, he does.
Ian?
I
would say 4.5. I think everyone would enjoy this.
Helen?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 5. I think it's a near universal recommendation. It's really funny. Like, the bromance between Frost and Pegg has never been better in this. And yeah, it's just really funny.
Yeah, going for the 5. Do I go for 5? Just take a notch down. Yeah, let's go 4.9. I think it is. I feel it could be a bit shorter, but whenever you press play, because we talked about how he sets things up and he knocks them down, it doesn't really ever drag. But for a comedy, you kind of expect it to be like 90-ish minutes. So sometimes I think, I'm not in a mood to sit down for 2 hours for a comedy. But every time I have pressed play, I've always been rewarded from it. Repeat viewing score, Michael.
Oh, I've watched this a million times. But it's funny because sometimes comedies can lose a bit on your second and third go because the punchlines aren't quite as funny as you imagine in the words. But for me, there's enough in here. There's enough different things going on that I can watch it and get. And so I'm going to go 4.75.
Ian?
Yes, I would go for 4 on repeat viewing.
Based on your first viewing?
I've watched it twice.
Oh, okay.
I watched it twice, and I enjoyed it a lot more the second time. As I said, because I could actually concentrate on the story. And there are lots of incident there. There are lots of Easter eggs, and I can imagine watching it again. But I don't think it's going to be a film that I would watch every year, for example. And some of my favorite films, I do that. Watch it every year, and still, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you guys. But that could be that I've only discovered it now at the tender age of 49, rather than
when it first came out.
When it first came out, exactly. Yeah.
What? It begs the question: what film do you watch every year?
Donnie Darko, for example.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, so that's something I could watch once a year, and and if you asked me to explain what it's about, I wouldn't have a clue. But it's.
I've never seen the director's cut of that.
No, it's not good. I bought it by mistake.
Not that much.
No, it's not good.
I still feel I need to watch it, because it doesn't explain too much.
No, it doesn't. It's weird actually, because I bought it. I loaned my DVD to somebody, they never gave it back, so I bought it again.
I hate that.
And I bought the director's cut by mistake, and my reaction was, "What have you done to my film?" Whereas it wasn't mine; it was his.
Yes, Helen, repeat viewing.
So there's a TV channel called ITV2, and I don't know if it's still the case, but at one point this was on every week on ITV2, and it just sometimes you'd just be flicking through the channels and you just go, "Oh, Hot Fuzz is on," and you'd sit there, and before you knew it, you'd watched Hot Fuzz, and then the next week you'd sit there and you'd flick through the channels, and you'd be like, "Oh, Hot Fuzz is on," and before you know it, you'd sat there and you'd watched Hot Fuzz again. That's how much Hot Fuzz that I've probably seen. But I do agree with you. It probably is a little bit long. And the opposite to you, Kobe, I prefer the kind of the start of the film. I find the action a little bit repetitive. So my favourite is the build up and the setups. But even so, saying that, I'm going to give it a 4.8 for repeat viewing.
Nice. I'm going to go for a 5 here because I will watch it every year, and I always look forward to whatever those guys are up to. Although I haven't seen Paul yet, but
no, I haven't either.
But
I think that's the only one I haven't seen.
Edgar Wright is definitely one of my favourite people, and he always will be just because of space. It was just a classic. Helen's similar age to himself. It's just one of the things that bound our house together at university, watching Spaced, and I just loved seeing him doing everything since then. Yeah, small screen score. Interesting to see this one. Okay, Michael, small screen score.
I went 4.5.
Right.
Just because I think it can be a really good experience to see a comedy at a theatre, like particularly a packed theatre. Get a lot more laughs and enthusiasm, and I really enjoyed comedies on the big screen when people are also there to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I don't think the action or anything gets taken away with the small screen, but yeah, I'll go 4.5.
The collective experience.
Yeah, correct.
Ian.
Yeah, for the same reasons, I was going to say 3.5, and it's not because it's bad for the small screen, but it's just it's be perfect on a bigger screen.
Yeah.
So I think that if, for example, a friend called me and said, "Oh, they're showing Hot Fuzz in the cinema," and we're all going over, I think that would be wonderful. That would be to watch that with a group of friends on the big screen. I think that would be excellent.
Helen.
So it's, sorry. So it's a 3.5, but I'm not sure if it's fair to actually downgrade the film because of that.
Well, it's your score, man.
It's your score.
Yes, and also I'm a bit afraid that Michael is going to disown me. So if anyone's interested in co-hosting a Blackadder podcast, you know where to find me.
Helen.
Yeah, so I have seen this at the cinema when it came out, but I haven't seen it at the cinema since. We have a cinema in the UK called the Prince Charles Cinema, and they show a lot of old films. I kind of feel like they've done the Cornetto trilogy quite a bit, and it's 20 years of Shaun of the Dead this year, and Shaun of the Dead is back in
next week.
Most UK,
next week as we record it.
And Edgar Wright is doing a few special talks and things, but yeah, it's back in the cinema. So potentially I would go back and see Hot Fuzz for its anniversary in a couple of years. But that said, it is enjoyable at home on ITV2 with adverts. That is
not with adverts. No.
Not the preferred way to view. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Yeah, so it would have been like 2 hours 30 with adverts.
Yeah. I mean, there was a different time, like that period of TV watching before you could pause and rewind, but it was sort of available on demand, but not quite.
I'm going for. So you said, what was your score? Sorry, Helen? 4. The first time I saw this in a cinema was with a bunch of really good friends, and we had an absolute blast. Especially, I think for the moment, he did a flying kick into that old lady's face. That's when we all just like the whole cinema kind of erupted. And that's another one. That's another gag that's played off. Everyone's got guns. Farmers have got guns. Farmers' mothers got guns. You know, it's just like so many of these things which pay off. And that's a point where it kind of does fly into parody, self-parody, slightly absurdity, but it still really works for me. But yeah, the cinema score it was so much fun watching the cinema, and I would like to watch it again. One thing Helen didn't say is that there's also a cinema chain called Picture House, and particularly Picture House Central, and every year they do what's it called? An all-nighter.
All-nighter.
Typically with a theme. And not this year, but the year before last, there was an Edgar Wright theme, so all of his films in order. And Edgar Wright actually hosted it. So from like 7 o'clock on a Saturday night through to 4 o'clock in the morning, he was there introducing each of his films and giving out Jaffa cakes to people to keep them stop them from falling asleep.
There's a good chance you might see him at either those cinemas, the Prince Charles or Picture House Central.
He's generally like an insane cinephile. I just don't. I've heard a conversation with him and Quentin Tarantino, and they're just dropping all this knowledge left, right, and centre. And I was like, I know I like films, but these guys are just like next level in terms of how much they enjoy. And if you follow them on Twitter, on Instagram, they'd say, "Yeah, this is all the films I've seen this year," and it's like 1,000 films, and he's catalogued them and he remembers them all, and it's just like, man, this guy. Anyway, that's a massive digression. Small screen score, because I had such a good time in cinema, I'll give it 4 because I think this is something great to watch in cinema. Before we go to the engagement score, though, one of the talking points I did write in our notes beforehand was the kind of Flixwatcher nature of it. And Helen's talked about the fact that we've had one of the cast on here, Adam Buxton, who's a big podcaster in the UK who played Tim Messenger, friend of the podcast. But also the 2 of the films that this pivots around, Point Break and Bad Boys 2, we've recorded episodes on those. So, and they play kind of interesting roles in there. And again, he sets those up, and then he has Bad Boys 2 kind of camera pans around, and they kind of show those things. And he also has the kind of the shooting, Nick Frost shooting into the air, playing off the Point Break kind of things. And again, it's just the layers that he puts in there. So everyone, you don't need to see in any of those films, but you know what's happened. You know where it comes from, and brings everyone along. And if you know the films before, then you get an extra bit of a buzz.
Yes. I really like that. Yeah, that end scene where he goes to shoot his spoiler alert. Yeah, where he goes to shoot his father, but he just shoots it up in the air instead.
And empties the clip out. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
Engagement score then, Michael.
For me, it's 5. I first time I watched it, loved it. I was engaged the whole way through.
Ian.
I'm giving it a 4. It's a fun film, but it's not as if I was glued to the screen or anything. In fact, I think I texted Michael during the film, actually.
The first time. Well, you watched it twice, though, so there must have been something that brought you back to say, hold on, I need to do this again.
Yes, it was the fact that I had to go on a podcast and talk about it.
Oh,
okay. I realised that I had, because there were so many familiar faces, as I said before, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have to watch this again because there's an awful lot in it, and I've probably missed half of it. And I had, and I'm sure if I watch it again, and I will at some stage, then I'm sure there'll be some other things that I hadn't noticed before.
Helen?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot going on. There's a lot to take in, and there's a lot of funny stuff happening as well. But yeah, I think the amount of times that I've seen it, it's that kind of like, this bit's coming up, really excited kind of vibes. And yeah, I was like, I'd never seen Bad Boys 2 until recently, and like the fact that he goes, "You've never seen Bad Boys 2," but I kind of felt that I knew a lot more about Bad Boys 2 going into it because of Hot Fuzz from that. So engagement, I'm going to give it 4.5.
I'm going to go 4.8. You need to pay attention, but because I've watched it so many times, I kind of know what's going on. But I can't think of a time where I haven't picked up something new from watching it. A little gag here or there, and you just need one to keep like, oh, that's amazing, brilliant. So that gives an overall score of 4.51563, which is amazing. Helen, you said you've done a table of his previous film scores that we've had. So how does this rank?
So does anyone want to guess what the top Flixwatcher score for Edgar Wright films are? So
you mean before this, you mean, or including this?
Including this. So out of the 5.
I would say Hot Fuzz is the highest.
Yeah. So we've got Hot Fuzz at the top, and then following it sort of closely, we've got Shaun of the Dead with 4.45. And then after that, we've got Baby Driver with 4.18. And then Scott Pilgrim, 3.95.
That seems a bit, that doesn't seem right. I mean, obviously that's what the score is, but...
The small screen on that one let that down, in that the people who really enjoyed it but had not seen it on the big screen.
Right.
And then at the bottom, I mean, I did not enjoy this. Last Night in Soho, 2.69.
Oh. It seems a bit harsh.
I haven't actually seen that one.
Well, do check it out. It's just for curiosity's sake.
Yeah.
We had on this, didn't we?
We did indeed.
Okay.
We did.
So, guys, if you're listening to us, do follow us on social media. We are on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod and at FlixWatcher on everything else. Look out for a tweet saying something similar to, we're reviewing Hot Fuzz with Mocha Smith 1976 and John Loves Julie from Lord Adder's Black. That's the name of their podcast. If you want to go to Twitter, type in Lord Adder's Black. That's the guy's podcast. Interact with him. Say hello. Have you seen it? Tells your thoughts and score of 5 stars for an on-air shout out on this very podcast. So we had one comment, one review, which kind of read a few tweets. Michael, do you want to take this?
Yeah, so I hope I get this pronunciation right. Owen Ling
I don't know.
Yes, that's right. I know him. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, good.
Hello, Owen.
So Owen said, and I assume this was good, but I didn't actually know. He said it's off the chain.
That's a direct line from the film.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So I assume he enjoyed it.
Okay.
But then he went on to say yes. And he also went on to say that it's the film that started Timothy on his Dalton naissance, offering the chance to play the part of the scene stealer and vagrant. So 5 stars he gave it. And obviously a big fan of Timothy Dalton in the movie as well.
Who was in? Because I asked him what films are in the Daltonaissance because I didn't know this.
Yes.
Who was he in Toy Story 3?
I have no idea, to be honest. I read that too. But,
and then he mentioned The Tourist, which I haven't seen, Chuck, which I haven't seen, Penny Dreadful, which I haven't seen, 1923, which I haven't seen, The Crown, which I haven't seen, and Doom Patrol, which I haven't seen. So obviously, I'm glad he's got more work out of it, but I've not contributed to his Daltonaissance since then.
No. No, I mean, I just knew Timothy Dalton from the Bond movies mainly.
I think but actually probably more so for me, Hot Fuzz than James Bond, solely.
Yep.
Ian, Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Can we say, tell everyone and remind everyone where we can find your podcast online, and we'll say goodbye to the listeners.
Yeah, sure. So you can find Lord of Adders Black on Facebook and Instagram. So just search Lord of Adders Black and you'll find us on those 2 places. And thanks for joining us, and see you next time.
Yeah, and you can also find us on Twitter, which is Lord Adders Black. And if you want to listen to our podcast, you can find it on all good podcast platforms. Just Lord of Adders Black.
Lovely.
Thank you for having us. And
well, I'm glad you got to enjoy Hot Fuzz for the first time.
Yes, and I will enjoy it again.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes, and Rockwood Audio's editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.